When I got back to my seat after getting some water between classes, I found a crowd of students gathered around my desk. "Vivi, I just got back from a photo shoot. Look what I brought you." Summer saw me and waved enthusiastically. Every little movement, every smile was breathtakingly beautiful. I walked over and saw a gorgeous Louis Vuitton bag sitting quietly on my desk, glowing invitingly in the sunlight. The students around us sighed with envy. "Wow, that's LV. It must be so nice to have a bestie like Summer. Vivian Meng must have done something amazing in a past life. Look at that miserable face on Vivian. How is she worthy of that? She's as fat as a pig. Nothing would look good on her." Exactly. If I had a best friend like that, I'd be on my knees shining her shoes for her. Hearing this, Summer lifted her chin smugly and urged me on. "Are you just stunned with happiness? Hurry up and switch to the new one. Look, your old bag is falling apart and always dropping things." A long time ago, Summer was a poor, insecure, overweight girl. I was always the one looking out for her and helping her. But ever since one of my birthdays, when Summer gave me a handmade bag, the happy life I once knew was completely shattered. Summer had bound me to a system, and that bag was her tool. If I put a mirror inside, she could exchange it for my good looks. If I put a book inside, she could steal my grades. Once, I had a cold and brought medicine to school, but I only got sicker and sicker, gasping for air after just a few steps. Meanwhile, Summer, who had been frail since birth, grew healthier and stronger by the day. This whole situation sent me into an endless spiral of self-doubt. While Summer worked tirelessly behind my back, turning my classmates against me and isolating me. Now I looked up with a cold smile. "Summer, didn't you hear them? With a face like mine, nothing looks good on me. That old, beat-up bag is a better match. But I can't let your kind gesture go to waste. So I'll just regift it. Any of you who want a new bag, just take this one." As soon as I said that, the same classmates who had been mocking me just moments before erupted. "I want it, I want it. Give it to me. I want to try an LV bag too. Get the hell out of my way." A girl who was as big as me, but taller, shoved her way through the crowd using her size. She glared, hands on her hips, and roared, "Whoever tries to take it from me, I'll kill you." Summer's face changed as she felt the intimidating pressure. She shrieked, "No. I gave that to Vivian Meng. But she said she doesn't want it." As if she could pull off a bag like this. She'd probably just get robbed a few steps down the road. Watching the big girl snatch the bag, Summer looked like she'd swallowed a fishbone. She was panicked and scared, every cell in her body screaming in protest. Seeing her reaction, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. What if the system still works when someone else's things are put in the bag? "Vivian, this was a gift I picked out especially for you. You don't have to take it, but why would you trample on my feelings like this?" Summer's eyes suddenly turned red. She accused me dramatically, tears ready to fall at any moment. "I treat you this way because you're my best friend, but you just give it away so easily. You're breaking my heart." She suddenly clutched her chest, stumbled a few steps, and started to fall to the ground. The big girl freaked out, screamed, and threw the bag back onto my desk. The classroom descended into chaos. Countless boys were eager to play the hero and save the damsel in distress, but no one actually dared to step forward. Just then, a stern voice came from the doorway. "The bell for class has rung. What is going on in here?" A pair of students from the disciplinary committee stood at the door in their uniforms. The leader was a handsome, slender boy with a cool, pale complexion and a pair of deep, quiet brown eyes. The boy behind him spoke, scowling as he jotted something down in a notebook before handing it to the leader. "President, the senior class 1 was causing a disturbance during study hall. That's a 10-point deduction." The entire class fell silent, the only sound a collective intake of breath. Even Summer, who had been pretending to be unconscious on the floor, quietly opened her eyes. But this wasn't because our class was losing points or because they were afraid of being punished. It was because of the disciplinary committee president, Caleb Chu. He was the first student in the school's history to get early admission into USC's film directing program. His father was a high-ranking government official, and his mother was a business mogul. A whole street in the city's most bustling commercial district belonged to his family. Right now, This once-in-a-century genius was expressionlessly taking the pen and signing his name with a downward glance. Just as the group was about to leave, Summer suddenly stood up and said loudly, "Caleb, it's not our class's fault. It's all on me." Under everyone's watchful eyes, she pushed through the crowd to stand in front of Caleb. She looked up at him, her eyes curving into a smile. Their gazes met, and the air went still for a few seconds. Caleb subconsciously looked away and took 2 steps back, his voice a little hoarse. Summer spoke graciously. "It's because I suddenly fainted, and my classmates were just trying to help me. That's why there was a commotion." Summer blinked her big, watery eyes and said in a soft voice, "A moment ago, I gave my best friend an LV bag, but she didn't want it and was going to give it to someone else. I couldn't stop her." Summer's voice choked up. Seeing her so righteous, the other students jumped in excitedly. Right. It was that Vivian Meng who started all the trouble. Summer was nice enough to give her a bag, and she just rejected it. That fat girl's bag is falling apart, but she won't even change it. I bet she just wants to drop her stuff on purpose to frame us. She's just ugly, broke, and conniving. She's always been jealous of Summer, always trying to sabotage her. People like her just hate the world. She's bullied a lot of people behind their backs. She's done so many awful things. Summer fainted because she made her so angry. We were just trying to save her. Sir, please just put all the deducted points on Vivian Meng's record. They all chimed in, piling the blame on me and dragging my name through the mud. No one noticed that Summer was getting closer and closer to Caleb, her fingers even lightly tugging at the corner of his sleeve, a perfect blend of coquettishness and vulnerability. "President, please don't deduct points from our class, okay? Our homeroom teacher will definitely punish us." The boy looked down at her, his calm, indifferent expression gradually softening. The tips of his ears turned a little red. "Where is this Vivian Meng?" "That's her." Before I could react, someone shoved me hard from behind, and I went face-planting right in front of Caleb. Sharp, derisive laughter erupted all around. I sucked in a sharp breath from the pain. My palms were scraped and bleeding. "Oh my gosh, Vivian, how could you be so clumsy? What are you doing on the floor? You're so embarrassing for our class." I gritted my teeth and got up. Just as I was about to defend myself, Caleb had already picked up his pen with a look of disgust. As he wrote, he announced, "Vivian Meng for bullying a fellow student. A 20-point deduction from your personal record. You will be ineligible for any school awards or honors until graduation. If you have any objections, take it up with the dean's office with security footage." Caleb didn't give me a single chance to explain. He and the disciplinary committee left without a moment's hesitation. The whole class was laughing hysterically. Someone said sarcastically, "Everyone knows the security cameras are just for show and are only on during exams. Vivian Meng, just accept your fate." I was furious. I spun around, grabbed the boy who had pushed me and was now laughing the hardest, and slapped him across the face with all my strength. "Vivian Meng, are you fucking crazy? You dare hit me?" His eyes widened, and he immediately tried to hit me back. But I weighed 180 pounds, and with that fat came strength. His skinny frame was no match for me. "Didn't you all say I was getting points deducted for bullying? In that case, I might as well live up to the bad girl reputation." I have to admit, after being bullied for so long, this sudden outburst seemed to have scared everyone into silence. And the instigator, Summer, just gave me a fake, benevolent smile, thinking I couldn't tell the difference. "I'm sorry, Vivi. I was trying to take all the blame myself, but I didn't expect the president to write down your name. We're such good friends, you won't hold it against me, right?" I watched her lips curve into a smirk. "Of course not, my dear best friend." Right in front of her, I put the LV bag in my desk, sat down, and started studying. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her let out a disdainful sigh of relief. After school, I grabbed the bag and bolted out of the classroom. I ran all the way to a small alley where a woman who collected recyclables showed up every day. In the sweltering heat, the sun was scorching. She sat on the ground, her pant legs rolled up, the wrinkles on her face as deep as canyons. "Ma'am, I want to buy something from you." I pulled out a handful of change from my pocket, some 10s, some 20s, but mostly $1 bills. Usually this was enough for a snack. I gritted my teeth and handed her a 20. A look of astonishment crossed the woman's dark, weathered face. She stood up, looking bewildered, and wiped the sweat from her brow. I want to buy your used scraps, or the trash you have piled up at home. See how much this will get me. I'll be back again. The woman had never seen anyone try to buy junk from her before, especially not someone specifically asking for used trash. She was hesitant at first, but after seeing my school uniform and the name tag on my chest, she eventually let her guard down. Half an hour later, I returned with a bag full of empty water bottles, instant noodle packets, and plastic bags with breadcrumbs still inside. My heart was pounding like a drum. I ran all the way back to the school dorms. Before, I had been so insecure about my appearance that I would duck my head and hurry past any mirror. But this time, for some reason, I looked up at my reflection. It wasn't an illusion. My face was a little slimmer. My face and neck, which had previously blended into one line, now had a jawline. Even my eyes, once squeezed into slits by puffy flesh, seemed a bit wider. It worked. The reverse system worked. I was ecstatic. To make sure I had enough money to keep buying trash from the woman, I spent my entire lunch break doing homework for classmates to earn some cash. My intelligence had dropped so much that even looking at the problems made my head spin, so I could only handle simple, low-level tasks. When I got back to the classroom, I found it in an uproar. Whoa, Summer, you're amazing. I saw Caleb Chu walk you to class. You just met this morning, right? Things are moving that fast. It's been 3 years and I've never seen him with any girl. That's right. Oh my God, he's always alone with his camera on weekends and barely says a word. Well, it's not that surprising. Summer's the campus queen. She's already getting modeling gigs before she's even graduated. The campus queen and campus king are meant to be together. I could only scoff. A black-hearted psycho and a blind fool really were a perfect match. Caleb thinks I'm too naive and easy to bully, so he was just being nice and walked me here. Oh, and he also said I'm well-spoken and elegant, and that it's obvious I've read a lot of books. Summer walked over to me, feigning nonchalance, but the smile in her eyes was about to spill over. You guys better not spread rumors. We're not together yet. Oh, by the way, there's this new show called Finding America's Sweetheart that's scouting for girls in high schools. The winner gets to be in a movie by a famous director. Summer stood with her side to me, her ambition undisguised. Getting a few modeling jobs is nothing. I'm going to make it in Hollywood and become a star everyone looks up to. Then no one will be surprised that Caleb likes me. They'll just say he has great taste. It was a great speech, sounded just like a confident female protagonist, except her method was to ruin another innocent girl's life, stepping on someone else's corpse to build her own success. She had hardly read any books, she had just swapped brains with me. Summer, your double chin is showing. After the last class of the afternoon, everyone was starving and rushed to the cafeteria. I stayed in my seat, continuing to copy homework for students from other classes. Later, Summer frowned at her reflection in a mirror and kicked the chair in front of her in frustration. What's going on? Why does my face feel so much fatter? Could it be that she'd been slacking on her diet lately? She muttered to herself, then secretly used the mirror to glance at my desk. Seeing the bulging LV bag in my desk cubby, she relaxed a little and stood up. Vivi, you're doing the right thing. Study hard. She smiled, looking incredibly pleased with herself, as if I were some clueless worker bee. Skip dinner. Look at how fat you've gotten. You need to be careful with your diet. From now on, 1 meal a day is enough. I didn't even look up. Summer, meanwhile, strutted off to the cafeteria to stuff her face. What she didn't know was that all my efforts now were for my own benefit. After she left, I immediately closed my book and counted the $23 I'd earned today. It was enough. I grabbed my bag and dashed out of the school gates. This time, I came back with a huge stack of old newspapers from the scavenger woman's home. I stuffed all the newspapers into the bag and skipped all the way back to school. At that moment, a crowd had gathered at the school entrance. A boy in a baseball cap and a black shirt was bent over, cleaning his camera. Behind him, a group of girls, clutching their dinners, were whispering and screaming, on the verge of fainting from excitement. Oh my god, he's so hot. That guy is seriously so handsome. That's our campus king. He already has early admission to college. He's just here to chill now. Is that girl his girlfriend? I'm so jealous. It's like watching a teen romance drama. I haven't heard anything about that. The campus king is so handsome I could die. Please God, give me a boyfriend like that. As I got closer, I realized the boy was Caleb Chu, and the person his camera was pointed at was the stunningly beautiful Summer, standing under the school's sign. The boy bent down, his expression gentle and serious, and with a click he pressed the shutter. Caleb, let me see how they turned out. Summer bounced over to his side. Standing so close together, they looked like a picture from another dimension, so dazzling. I clenched my fists as a sour, painful feeling spread from my heart. This was all supposed to be mine. This was the life Summer had stolen from me. I suppressed the hatred in my heart and was about to walk into the school when someone called out to me, Vivi, come here. Let's take a picture together. Summer grabbed me forcefully, dragging me into place. Caleb, quick. I want to take a picture with my best friend. Caleb gave me a disgusted look, but still focused the lens on Summer. The onlookers, eating their dinner and enjoying the show, were bursting with laughter. This girl is built like a mountain. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. If I were her, I would never take a picture with such a beautiful girl. It's just humiliating yourself. Sigh, there's no harm without comparison. The difference between these two is huge. I don't know how they became best friends. Yeah, one's a goddess, the other's a toad. Is she here for comic relief? Haha, what a buzzkill. With me as a foil, Summer looked like a fairy. Every cell in my body was resisting. My expression and posture were completely stiff. Take a few more. These are our precious memories. Vivi, come on, let's smile together. Your face is big, so I'll stand behind you for this one. Don't move. Summer was determined to humiliate me, her arm wrapped tightly around my neck. I finally couldn't take it anymore and shoved her to the ground. Is that enough? Are you ever going to stop? I said I don't want to take a picture. Don't you understand English? The crowd of onlookers was startled. Seeing my disheveled, screaming state, they all took a few steps back. Summer, having fallen to the ground, looked at me in disbelief. Caleb rushed over, helped Summer up, and glared at me with icy eyes. Vivian Meng, what are you doing? Apologize to Summer, or don't blame me for what happens next. A storm was brewing in his eyes. People around us were raising their phones, whispering and calling me a psycho. Apologize? Why should I apologize? She was the one who dragged me here. All the pent-up grievances erupted in that moment. I didn't care about my image anymore. I screamed, my hair a mess. Why do you all ignore the facts and target me? It's like everything is my fault. Just because I'm ugly, I deserve to be laughed at and bullied? You bunch of animals, you'll all get what's coming to you. For the entire evening study session, I sat at my desk furiously writing, channeling my grief and anger into my studies. It wasn't my fault that I was discriminated against for my appearance. The ones who should feel pathetic were those looks-obsessed, superficial people. To my surprise, I found that I could now understand the difficult problems that used to be incomprehensible. Solutions started to form in my mind. As soon as the bell rang for the end of the last study hall, I grabbed my bag and headed back to the dorm. For some reason, I was the only one in the dorm room tonight. I fumbled for the light switch. In the empty room, it would be a lie to say I wasn't lonely. But when I sat down at my desk to review what I had learned that day, feeling the knowledge flood into my brain, my heart was full and satisfied. I knew a better tomorrow was waiting for me. All these current hardships were just passing moments in my life. I had a sweet dream. The next day, I had barely sat down in the classroom when a phone was shoved in front of my face. A girl was covering her mouth, trying to hold back her laughter. I looked up and saw that Summer was trending online, #1 on the campus chart. Well, good for her. I coldly opened my book. What did that have to do with me? But on the phone being held out to me, the pictures were opened. My pupils contracted when I saw them. They were the photos Caleb had taken for her last night. The first few were the ones with me as the backdrop. A famous photographer had posted them. The post had hundreds of thousands of likes, and the comments were flooding in at over 99 per minute. So beautiful, I'm crying. You really have to look at campuses for true youthful beauty. I strongly recommend this girl go pro. She'd wipe the floor with all those plastic surgery monsters in Hollywood. Can someone please blur out the person next to her? It's kind of ruining my appetite. Ha ha ha, not everyone's youth is glamorous. You have to allow for some clowns, right? Be more tolerant. Some people are miracles carefully crafted by God, while others are just specks of mud. What was worse, under that post, someone had also posted the picture of me shoving Summer, with the caption, "Tolerant. As they say, beauty is only skin deep, but ugliness goes to the bone. This fat girl is ugly and pushes around the pretty ones in public." In no time, that comment got thousands of likes and shot to the top. Countless people were cursing me out below it. WTF, that's disgusting. Who is this person? Dox her. If a girl like this acts this way in school, who knows what evil she'll do once she's out in the real world? Isn't this a classic bully? I want to slap her through the screen. What a bitch. What were the bystanders doing? Just watching her attack someone like that. The famous photographer who posted the original pictures quickly responded, and he brought some big news. The person involved, Miss Summer Sue, wishes to preserve her friendship and does not want to press the issue. However, rest assured, the team from Finding America's Sweetheart has taken notice of Miss Sue and will be visiting her school after this week's shoot, probably in about 2 weeks. We will definitely protect this future star of the entertainment world. Even though Summer was supposedly being magnanimous and not stooping to my level, everyone at school knew what had happened. I was subjected to unprecedented malice and attacks. I reported it to the teachers and suggested calling the police, but the school used a mix of threats and persuasion to shut it down. As I was leaving the office, I ran into Summer in the hallway. Over the past few days, her face had started to get dark, red, and broken out, forcing her to cover it with even heavier makeup. I had also started wearing makeup, but to avoid tipping my hand, I was deliberately making myself look worse. Our eyes met. Summer's were filled with the smile of a victor. "Vivi, where were you just now?" "Nowhere, just asking a teacher about a problem." As I walked past her, a light, mocking laugh followed me. "Well, you better study hard then. Vivi, life is funny, isn't it? I'll be heading to Hollywood soon." I pretended not to hear her, and told myself that the citywide exams were coming up. I had to work hard. I went back to the classroom and forced myself to pour all my energy into studying. Luckily, Summer's attention was completely absorbed by the upcoming visit from the TV crew. She struck while the iron was hot, getting Caleb to take many more photos of her, which he edited and posted online, gaining countless new followers and even more modeling opportunities. She was barely at school anymore. I followed my routine, study, eat, and gradually take on a wider range of homework for higher jobs, with increasing difficulty. This meant I was earning more money and buying more things from the scavenger woman. Soon the citywide exams arrived. I walked into the exam hall with my pen, feeling strangely calm. It was as if a voice inside me was telling me, "This time you've got this." After the exams, we had a short break. I was exhausted from all the studying, so it was a perfect time to go home and rest. I woke up, ate, and slept, losing all track of time. Every time I woke up, my mom would exclaim, "You're getting more beautiful, more beautiful." But I knew she was just trying to comfort and encourage me. Ever since my appearance had changed, the only people who still thought I was pretty were my immediate family. The night before returning to school, the class rankings were posted in the group chat. As usual, I started counting from the bottom of the list, but didn't see my name. Instead, I found Summer's name in the bottom 10. And my name was at the very top of the list. I wasn't mistaken. The class chat exploded. "First place is Vivian Meng? That fat girl? Impossible. There must be a mistake in the grading. Is this a joke? How could she get first place? She must have cheated with an answer key." But still, what happened to Summer? Did she fall asleep during the exam? Many people tagged me directly. "The TV crew is coming tomorrow. And it's all going to be live. We're going to expose you in front of everyone, you shameless thing. You must have forgotten the cameras are on during exams. I've already reported you. The dean of students will be here with the video tomorrow to expel you. People who bring shame to our class should just die. I had just woken up and was still completely bewildered. Beside me, my mom cautiously handed me a mirror, her voice on the verge of tears. Honey, look, your face is completely better. The girl in the mirror had soft, dark hair, red lips, white teeth, and clear eyes, as if a beauty filter had been applied. Her skin was flawless. Before I could get a second look, my mom pulled me into a tearful hug, nearly suffocating me. You've been through so much, suffered so much at school all this time. I started coughing violently. The wretched system had finally failed. Everything of mine had returned, even better than before. Summer, let's settle all our scores, new and old, tomorrow. When I went back to school, even though it had only been a few days off, the campus was packed with people. Cameramen with cameras on their shoulders, hosts with microphones, and many crew members in hats. The host greeted everyone enthusiastically, then lowered her microphone and complained to her assistant. Some students these days are so rude. A fat girl just bumped into me and didn't even apologize, just rushed off to the bathroom. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was just loud enough for our class to hear. Someone shouted, "Someone that rude? There's only one person like that, and it's Vivian Meng, the one who's always bullying Summer. She's jealous of Summer, bullies her classmates, and cheats on exams. Let's all expose her." The host was just worrying about how to start the show since she couldn't find Summer, so when she heard this, she asked everyone who Vivian Meng was. At that, a clear voice rang out. I walked out from the crowd, took off my hat, and removed my mask. In that instant, the world fell completely silent. Someone gasped, "Whoa, how is she so beautiful?" Caleb, who was being interviewed on the other side, stared with wide, unbelieving eyes. He rushed over to me without a second thought, and when he saw my face up close, his breath caught in his throat. "You're Vivian Meng?" I raised an eyebrow and deliberately took 2 steps closer to him. "Caleb Chu, do you still recognize me?" Caleb was definitely a sucker for a pretty face and couldn't take a joke. As soon as I said that, his face turned bright red. He stood there, flustered, but his eyes couldn't help but stay fixed on my face. Meeting everyone's shocked gazes, I smiled slightly. I was sick before. The medicine I was taking had hormones in it, which is why I looked like that. I'm better now. What, are you all unhappy to see me healthy again? Not only was the host stunned, but her microphone was trembling with excitement. The onlooking students were even more shocked. Isn't Vivian Meng supposed to be fat? No, but she's way too beautiful. I'm on my knees. I think I remember Vivian looking like this back in freshman year. I don't know what happened, but she suddenly got fat. I think this show can just change who they're looking for. Summer is pretty, but she can't compare to this. I've watched several episodes of that show, and every girl is gorgeous, but they're nothing compared to Vivian Meng. The show can probably wrap up right now. With looks like these, Vivian Meng would be a sensation in Hollywood. I smiled and walked up to the camera, speaking seriously. Right now, there's a lot of hate directed at me online, and there are many misunderstandings. So it's a good thing we're here today. I'll clear things up one by one. Last night, I found the boy who took the video at the school gate. He admitted that Summer paid him to post misleading screenshots to make everyone think I was jealous and attacked her. I held up my phone and showed the full, unedited story. There were many girls in the audience, and they could all see what had really happened. They showed looks of disgust. And she calls herself a best friend? Forcing someone to take a picture, and then only editing herself in the photo. That's a classic fake friend. If she tried to drag me like that, I would have just told her off and walked away. Who bullies someone like that? What a bitch. Why isn't that Summer girl coming out to say anything? Isn't it obvious she was just trying to use someone as a prop? My expression didn't waver. And the second thing, someone said I cheated on the exam. The dean of students called me this morning and confirmed that I was falsely accused. The student who spread the rumor and reported me has been disciplined and is writing a self-criticism. If you don't believe me, you can go to the office right now and check. The security footage is crystal clear. As for the last thing, about me supposedly bullying classmates all the time. Before I could finish, the boys from my class had wiped the drool from their faces and stood up, raising their hands. I can testify that these are all rumors. Vivian Meng has always been a respectful and well-behaved student. We don't know how these rumors started. Don't worry, Vivian. I'll protect you from now on. If anyone bullies you, I'll beat them up. I listened to this with a cold smile, then turned to Caleb, president of the disciplinary committee. Did you hear that? So about that day when someone said I was bullying a classmate, and you deducted points from my record because of it. His eyes were completely glued to me. I had seen that look countless times growing up. It was love at first sight. Boys who looked at me like that would usually be blushing and asking for my number the next second. I was wrong about that. As soon as Caleb said this, the student council members beside him couldn't help but start murmuring. The boy looked at me steadily and bowed. I'm sorry, Vivian. I was very unfair to you before. With the truth out, the host immediately changed the interview subject and pointed the microphone at me. Just then, a piercing shriek came from the side. Summer, who had ballooned into a ball, came running out, her eyes red, and blocked my path. Don't let anyone see me. This opportunity is mine. It can't go to Vivian Meng. When the students saw her, they almost choked. You're Summer? What happened to you? Holy crap, you're hideous. So you didn't disappear to do modeling gigs. You went to get your face ruined. Help, what happened to Summer? It feels like she's lost her mind too. The host was also stunned for a moment, then looked annoyed. So you're the student who bumped into me and didn't apologize. Summer had become the target of everyone's scorn, and was about to burst into tears. She looked like she was going to explode. No, it's not like that. The person you're supposed to interview is me. I'm Summer, you have to interview me. Don't interview Vivian Meng. Don't let her get famous. Don't let everyone see her. Caleb, don't you have connections? Make them change the interview subject back. I'm the one who's going to Hollywood. I'm the one who's going to be a big star. However, I discreetly signaled a classmate to hand her a large mirror. The moment Summer saw the mirror, her eyeballs looked like they were about to pop out. She grabbed her hair in disbelief, her sharp nails scratching her face, leaving bloody streaks. No, this can't be happening. This must be a dream. I can't be. It's this disgusting fatso. This has to be a dream. She suddenly, recklessly, climbed onto the windowsill. Before anyone could grab her, she fell heavily to the ground below. The whole fiasco ended with both the police and an ambulance arriving at the same time. The director of the TV show repeatedly left me his contact information, telling me to get in touch as soon as I graduated. I agreed, on the condition that they wouldn't bother me again before my college entrance exams. I wanted to finish my high school years in peace. Many students who witnessed the event developed severe psychological trauma, suffering from vomiting and nightmares. Most of these were the same people who had joined Summer in bullying me relentlessly. They believed it was karma, and they lived their days in a nightmare. Caleb never came to see me again. His family quickly intervened, helping him distance himself from the whole affair, claiming he and Summer were merely acquaintances. I found it all very ironic. So are teenage romances and so-called first loves in school always so passionate and beautiful? When faced with self-interest, everyone will choose to protect themselves. Those fairy tale perfect loves are, in the end, just fantasy bubbles woven by TV shows and novels. I became the perfect goddess that everyone at school looked up to. The teachers also poured all their resources into supporting me, ensuring I could get into a top university. I had finally returned to the life that was supposed to be mine, surrounded by flowers and applause, with a bright and beautiful road ahead. Summer, I will no longer hate you, but I will not forgive you either. You will forever be an insignificant part of my vast life, while I will move forward with determination, to the peak of my own life. Let's gather our thoughts and listen to the next story. The day I got my acceptance letter, I climbed through the window to sneak into my room and surprise my family, only to find the room reeked of blood. My father was in the closet, and the murderer was sitting in the living room, drinking tea with my grandmother. I knew he was waiting for me to come home so he could kill me too. Luna, dear, she went to get her acceptance letter. She'll be back soon. Have some tea, please. My grandmother was graciously serving the killer. The knife in his hand was still dripping blood, the drops splattering on the floor like tiny blossoms. The killer was my boyfriend, Zach. He was extreme, hot-tempered, and incredibly controlling. When it was time to apply for college, he had arrogantly demanded that I apply to the same university as him. Unwilling to be shackled by him, I secretly changed my application and chose a school in a city far from home. When he found out I'd been accepted to a top-tier university, he felt betrayed and came to my house for revenge. Crouching by the closet, I sent a text to 911 with a trembling hand. The moment I hit send, my father's body fell out of the closet with a dull thud. "Who's there? Is that you, Fluffy?" My grandmother's voice trembled slightly. Fluffy was our cat, who also often snuck in through that window. A chair scraped in the living room, and I heard familiar footsteps. It was Zach. With nowhere to hide, my heart pounded as I scrambled into the closet, hiding in a corner and covering myself with clothes. Through a gap in the clothes, I saw a pair of bloody white Yeezys stop next to my father's corpse. My father's body was twisted on the ground at an impossible angle, his bloodshot eyes wide open and staring right at the closet. My heart raced, and I shivered all over, my stomach cramping with fear. I clutched my phone in one hand and grabbed a hanger as a weapon with the other. Just then, with a meow, Fluffy darted out from somewhere and ran straight into the living room. "Fluffy, you're back. Go on, go play outside. We have a guest." My grandmother rapped her cane on the floor, shooing the cat away. As Zach turned and walked out, I received a text back from 911. They said my house was in a relatively remote part of the suburbs, but they would do their best to get there within 10 minutes and told me to hold on. 10 minutes. All I had to do was hide quietly in this closet for the length of a class period, and I could survive. And Zach probably wouldn't kill my grandma before he found me. As I was calculating, a pair of bloody hands suddenly tore through the pile of clothes I was hiding under. Zach's smile was icy, revealing a set of stark white teeth. "Found you, you bitch." I screamed and swung the hanger at him. He blocked it with one arm and dragged me out like a kitten. He slapped me hard, again and again, endlessly cursing. "You fucking whore. You bitch." I collapsed on the floor, crying and covering my head as he kicked and punched me, roaring, "You bitch. How dare you apply to another university behind my back? Say you're a bitch. Say it." Sobbing, I said, "I'm a bitch. I'm a bitch." Louder. I screamed louder through my tears. "I'm a bitch. I'm a bitch." My elderly grandmother, trembling all over, shuffled to the doorway, completely lost. Luna, what's wrong? What's happening?" My grandmother's appearance distracted Zach, which gave me a surge of courage. I shot my leg up and kicked him hard between the legs. He let out a pained scream and collapsed, clutching his crotch. I took the chance to grab my grandmother and run for the door. My grandmother couldn't see and couldn't run fast. She pushed me, saying, "Luna, you run. Don't worry about Grandma." I shook my head frantically, crying, "No. Neither of you are getting away. You're all going to die today." Zach staggered to his feet, his face twisted with malice, like a demon from hell, as he walked toward us step by step. I begged Zach in desperation. "Zach, calm down. Please let my grandma go. I'll do anything you say." Before I could finish, Zach's roar cut me off. "You fucking whore. I'm never believing your bullshit again. You love your grandma the most, don't you? I'll chop her to pieces." He lunged and stabbed my grandmother. With her scream, blood sprayed everywhere. I screamed and threw myself at the monster, only to be stabbed in the stomach and kicked to the ground. He licked the blood from the corner of his mouth and grinned as he walked toward me. "Luna, don't be scared. We'll be reunited soon." But as he spoke, black blood started to trickle from the corner of his mouth. He clutched his stomach and looked with difficulty at the coffee table in the living room, his voice full of hatred. "That damn old hag, she poisoned me." Only then did I remember that although my grandmother was blind, her sense of smell and hearing were exceptionally sharp. She must have realized he had killed my father and pretended to be senile. When she poured the tea, she must have secretly added the rat poison we kept in the house and tricked Zach into drinking it. If we had just waited 5 more minutes, my grandma wouldn't have had to die. If only I had come home 5 minutes later. This was the full story of the sensational valedictorian's family massacre, and it was the version I told the police. The motive was clear, the facts were straightforward, and the evidence was solid. The traces at the scene, the autopsy results, everything pointed to the same fact. The deceased, Zach Gu, was the murderer in the family massacre. I thought the case would be closed quickly, but just before I was about to leave for college, the police came to see me again. They said that after further investigation, they had found some problems and asked me to cooperate. The officer leading the team this time was a young policeman named Owen Wu. I had a vague memory of him. He had once been invited to our school to give a lecture on legal knowledge. He was very by the book, with a look that suggested he couldn't tolerate even a speck of dust in his eyes. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I had a feeling Officer Wu was not here with good intentions. As soon as he arrived, he directed his team to search everywhere inside and outside the dilapidated farmhouse, even measuring the distance from my bedroom window to the ground. They were a flurry of activity. I knew this was an interrogation tactic, designed to unsettle a suspect's psychological defenses. But I wasn't the murderer, so what did I have to be afraid of? I brewed some wild tea, set out some homemade pastries on the table, and made a symbolic gesture of hospitality. Owen stood by the bookshelf, looking it over, and finally pulled out a well-worn copy of Journey Under the Midnight Sun. You like Kigo Higashino too? I gave a non-committal answer. Not really. It was second-hand. Cost me $5. He took the book, sat back down, picked up his teacup, and took a sip, looking at me casually. Luna, since you also enjoy mystery novels, why don't you tell me, in a family massacre, who is usually the one who survives? I don't know, Officer Wu. I'm just a high school graduate. What would I know about deduction? I lowered my eyes and took a large gulp of water. I think there are two possibilities, he said. The first is a very lucky victim. The second, well, could be a cunning murderer. He said the last part very slowly, watching my face the whole time, as if trying to find something. What do you mean, Officer Wu? I looked at him coldly. He pulled a stack of printed papers from his briefcase and tapped them. Valedictorian Guan, care to explain? After our interviews and investigation, we found that your testimony doesn't match the facts. Your relationship with your family wasn't as wonderful as you described. Your neighbors say your grandmother saw you as a jinx and constantly beat and berated you, abusing you to the extreme. When you were little, your mother committed suicide because she couldn't bear the long-term domestic violence. Your father was a gambling addict with a mountain of debt. But in your testimony, you showed no hatred for them, only warmth and affection. That's not logical. I said anxiously. Do you hear what you're saying, Officer Wu? A female student, killing 3 people all by herself? And 2 of them were my family? An unhappy family relationship is a motive for a crime? Is that your logic for handling cases? He waved his hand. Don't be so quick. There's more. He then placed a newspaper in front of me. This high school girl who had a miscarriage on the bus. That was you, wasn't it? Why did you hide the fact that you had a miscarriage? I was getting angry. That seems irrelevant to the case and is my private matter, Officer Wu. What if the miscarriage was one of the reasons Zach killed your family? Owen said. I laughed out of anger. Officer Wu, are you telling a story here? Owen waved the documents in his hand. I have Zach's medical report. Hypothalamic pituitary tumor causing sexual dysfunction. I'm guessing you and he never had that kind of relationship, did you? Being asked such a private question by a male police officer, my face flushed red. Officer Wu, I believe this has nothing to do with the massacre, and I refuse to answer. As I've said, Zach killed my family because I tried to escape his control, and that enraged him. If you've investigated, you should know that Zach was a school bully who bullied me for 3 whole years. He was extremely controlling, to a pathological degree. Owen raised an eyebrow. Do you think I'd believe that someone with your intelligence would let herself be bullied for 3 whole years? Luna, you maintained that relationship because you had another motive, didn't you? I was shaking with anger. Then why don't you tell me what I was after? Officer Wu, I don't accept your baseless speculations. You'd better show me some evidence, or please leave my house. Owen slammed his hand on the table. Luna, don't think you're so great just because you're the valedictorian. Cooperating with a police investigation is every citizen's duty. I know more than you think. Let's be frank. Regarding the massacre, are you going to confess yourself, or do I have to help you remember? In the eyes of these officers, female suspects have a much weaker psychological defense. They don't need to be terrified, just startled, and they'll show their true colors, perhaps even confess voluntarily. Then they can work backward to find evidence and create a perfect, closed loop. It's the easiest and most opportunistic way to solve a case. But he didn't know that I wasn't afraid of any of this. I stood up and spread my hands. If it's a shouting match, I can't win. If it's about temper or position, I can't win either. Since you insist on calling me the murderer, Officer Wu, then please help me remember. And while you're at it, let me see just how rich your imagination is. Owen was taken aback. He clearly hadn't expected me to turn the tables and throw the hot potato back at him. Now he faced a dilemma. Either reveal what he knew or walk away defeated. If he walked away, it would be an admission that he knew nothing and was just trying to bluff a confession out of me. But if he made a deduction based on what he knew and was right, hitting the nail on the head, he could win big. On the other hand, if he was wrong, he would have shown his unimpressive hand, revealing his incompetence and making it much harder to ever turn the tables again. Owen called a female officer in to watch me while he stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. When he came back, he had decided to go all in and began to help me remember the truth. Owen's accusation against me. Your family's financial situation was dire. Your father was a gambling addict who frequently abused your mother, while your grandmother unconditionally doted on her son, not only failing to stop him but also brainwashing your mother. Your mother, unable to bear it and seeing no hope, hanged herself. You were only 6 years old. Having lost your mother, you should have been cherished by your father and grandmother, but your father remained addicted to gambling, and your grandmother, favoring boys, not only verbally abused you but left you to fend for yourself. That's why you nearly starved to death several times as a child. It was the neighbors who took pity on you and secretly gave you food. You were forced to drop out of middle school twice, and were almost sold by your father. It was your responsible homeroom teacher who repeatedly visited your home to reason with your father and grandmother and waived all your fees, allowing you to return to school. From middle school on, you did everything you could to live at school and avoid returning to that loveless home. You spent every break working tirelessly to earn money. In high school, you met Zach. He was a school bully who liked to pick on pretty girls, and you were one of them. Your entanglement lasted for 3 years. He had many demands, such as requiring you to be his servant, loyal to him in body and soul. You agreed to everything, being incredibly obedient, and he greatly enjoyed this feeling. But very few people knew that you, the top student in your grade, chose to align yourself with Zach to ensure you had enough to eat and didn't have to worry about accommodation fees. Zach had good looks and a good family background. After the college entrance exams, you had even considered locking him down as your ticket to a better life. That night, you intended to cross the final line, but you never expected that at the last moment, Zach couldn't perform. He had a tumor on his hypothalamic pituitary gland that was pressing on a cranial nerve, affecting his sexual function. So you were very disappointed. Unsatisfied, you found other men to fulfill your needs as a form of revenge against Zach. Later, the exam results came out, and you did very well, becoming the top humanities student. The possessive Zach demanded that you apply to the same university as him, but by then you looked down on Zach. You figured a top-tier university would have many more and better potential partners, so you were desperate to get rid of him. At the same time, your gambler father set his sights on your large scholarship prize. He and your grandmother used despicable means to steal it from you, using it to pay off his gambling debts, and he lost the little that was left at the gambling table. When you found out, you wished he were dead. To make matters worse, someone took a liking to your looks and intelligence and approached your blind grandmother, offering a $30,000 bride price to marry you. Your grandmother, seeing the money, was overjoyed and agreed on the spot without even consulting you. So you completely snapped. You decided that for your life to escape this darkness, 3 people had to be eliminated: your gambler father, your vicious grandmother, and Zach. So you devised a plan. You deliberately let Zach find out about your miscarriage and your acceptance into a top university to provoke him, and make him come to your house. You killed your father while he was drunk and stuffed him in the closet. When Zach arrived, you first played weak, letting him beat you up, then knelt and begged for mercy to make him lower his guard. You got him to drink the tea laced with rat poison, killing him. Then you killed your blind grandmother, wiped your fingerprints, staged the scene to frame Zach, and called the police. It was precisely because of your guilty conscience and your fear that the police would discover your motive that you fabricated a story of a grandmother and granddaughter saving each other. I don't need to say the rest, do I? You played the killing with a borrowed knife trick quite well. But you didn't expect the police to investigate so thoroughly, to notice the inconsistencies in your testimony, and to find out about your miscarriage. Following these doubts, we checked the surveillance footage and interviewed your classmates, teachers, and neighbors. Luna, ¿qué fez? You killed your own father and grandmother, and then you killed Zach. You, the survivor, are the murderer. Yes, yes. Owen's voice suddenly rose. I flinched, snapping back to reality. I couldn't control it anymore. I rushed to the sink and threw up. A beast seemed to be trapped in my throat, letting out a heart-wrenching wail. At the same time, tears and snot streamed down my face. I sobbed uncontrollably. Owen raised his voice, speaking to me with righteous indignation. Luna, the arm of the law is long, and no one can escape its reach. Confess and you will be treated with leniency. I will do everything in my power to help reduce your sentence. 2 minutes later, I rinsed out the sink, washed my face, and walked out of the bathroom. My eyes were red as I stared at the somewhat smug Owen like a demon crawling out of hell. Officer Wu, have you ever heard the saying? The greatest evil of human nature is to disgust others to the greatest extent possible, within one's limited abilities. Who do you think you are? You think you can reconstruct the truth based on a few snippets from surveillance footage and interviews with teachers, classmates, and neighbors? You're too full of yourself. I roared like a madwoman, my muscles twitching and trembling from the extreme agitation. Owen gestured for me to calm down, but I couldn't. You want to know the truth, don't you? When you were doing your investigation, didn't my neighbors tell you that I, Luna Guan, was available to any man in my small neighborhood? They only told you they gave me food, but did they tell you I paid for it with my body? Can you imagine my blind grandmother dragging a 7 or 8-year-old me around, letting anyone who paid touch me? Bullied at school, only to come home to a father who forced me to sleep with his creditors to pay off his debts and a grandmother who acted as my pimp. When I was being abused, bullied, molested, and raped, where were you? What right do you have to stand before me and play God? Seeing the situation spiral out of control, the female officer came over, patted my shoulder, helped me sit down, and placed a glass of water in front of me, signaling for me to calm down and speak slowly. I downed the water in one go, then asked Owen for a cigarette. I lit it, took a deep drag and choked, coughing violently. That's right. I planned it all. This whole massacre. I've been planning it for a long time. 2 years, to be precise, almost 3. Starting from the day Zach started bullying me. Just as you said, Officer Wu, with my intelligence, I wouldn't have been bullied by Zach for 3 years. So I would never use the common, ordinary method you described. Killing someone and getting caught myself is not a smart move. You police officers should know better than I do that there are many ways to kill someone, and quite a few don't require you to get your hands dirty, right? So if I, Luna Guan, wanted to kill someone, I would do it legally and properly, without causing any trouble for the police. I took a deep drag of the cigarette and began to tell the truth. In the summer when I was 19, I had a miscarriage on a bus, and it even made the local news. No one knew that there were actually 2 pieces of news about me that day. Besides the little gossip about my miscarriage, there was also the happy news of my acceptance into a top-tier university. And no one knew that these 2 pieces of news would become my murder weapons, which I had been planning for a long time. My score of 685 on the college entrance exam made me that year's provincial top humanities student, and I was deservedly accepted into one of the nation's top 2 universities, becoming one of the few scholars from a humble background in the city. The day I found out I was accepted, I went to a pharmacy and bought mifepristone and misoprostol. The pharmacist told me that an abortion takes 3 days. For the first 2 days, you take mifepristone to terminate the embryo's development. On the third day, you take misoprostol to induce uterine contractions. Usually, contractions start about half an hour after taking the medication, and the dead fetus is expelled within about 2 hours. So, on the third day, before getting on the bus, I took the misoprostol. Little sister, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? A middle-aged woman who looked like an office worker looked at me with concern. Although I didn't look in a mirror, I knew my face must have looked ghastly. At that moment, I was in excruciating pain, covered in a cold sweat, curled up on the bus seat, unable to say a word. Oh my God, she's bleeding. Why is there so much blood? The poor girl, is she on her period? The way she looks, it looks a lot like a miscarriage. Yes, that's what I was thinking. What a shame. I don't think she's even 20. So young and so reckless. The people on the bus were chattering. Many of them had looks of concern mixed with gossip, but most were just enjoying the drama. A beautiful, innocent-looking young girl possibly having a miscarriage, coupled with a faded school uniform, was enough to spark their imagination into a trashy teen drama. I gritted my teeth, looked up, and grabbed the arm of a girl next to me who was wearing a press pass. I managed to say, "Miss, please, can you take me to the hospital?" The number 56 bus route went to the city's news center, and there were always a lot of reporters on it. I chose this particular reporter because she looked like she had just started her job, maybe even still an intern. An old-timer might not be interested in a gossip story like, "High school girl has a miscarriage," but a newcomer is different. Newcomers are not only sympathetic, but also desperate for opportunities. They need to seize every chance to prove themselves. Sure enough, she hesitated for a moment, then took off her jacket, bent down, and wrapped it around my waist, waving to the driver. "Driver, hey driver, can you please stop? This young lady is not feeling well." The next day, a headline reading, "High school girl's miscarriage on bus sparks debate on premarital sex," appeared prominently in the city's best-selling newspaper, accompanied by a side-profile photo of me contorted in pain on the bus. The newcomer was really trying to make a name for herself, showing no shame. But that was exactly what I wanted. The article was anonymous, but with that photo, my boyfriend Zach would recognize me instantly. He was doing a summer internship at the city news center. His father, Principal Gu, had high expectations for him and had pulled strings to get him an internship at the evening paper after the exams. So he would definitely see it. And the article would infuriate him, because he and I had never done anything like that. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. No one knew that at his young age he already had sexual dysfunction. For the past 3 years, a big reason he bullied me was that he liked me but couldn't do anything about it. So, that emotion could only be expressed in another way. The more he couldn't have me, the more he wanted me. During graduation season, his possessiveness had reached its peak. The night after we took our graduation photos, he grabbed me by the neck and said, "Luna, if you dare betray me, I will definitely kill you." I naturally nodded like a pecking chicken. I understand. Luna is her master's private property, a servant, a pet. Only the master can abandon Luna. Luna would never dare to do anything to betray her master. TSK, I don't know how you became the top student in the grade. They say talented people have some pride, but it's a wonder someone as spineless as you can be number one, he said, Doyida pinching my chin mockingly. I lowered my eyes and smiled sweetly to please him. Over the years, I had never once defied him, never touched his sore spots. Being with me was extremely comfortable for him. This was another reason he bullied me. Zach the school bully, hot-tempered, yet he had a top student for a girlfriend. Everyone thought I was with him for his looks and his family background, but no one knew I was with him for his explosive temper, his reckless fighting, his simple mind, and his potential to be my weapon. For these 3 years, I had hidden the truth about my relationship with my family from my classmates and from Zach. On the one hand, I wanted to create the illusion of a warm and harmonious family to satisfy my pride and numb myself. On the other hand, it was because I was playing a game of chess. I had hinted to Zach more than once that my family was very important to me. Whenever Zach got angry, I would beg him for mercy, always adding, "Please don't ever hurt my family." But having grown up in a harsh environment, I understood human nature. I knew that people are inherently rebellious the more something is forbidden, the more they want to try it. What I was doing was constantly reinforcing this idea in him. And then I would find 1 or 2 triggers to set him off, using a single stone to kill 2 birds, getting rid of all the unfavorable factors so I could go to college and start a new life. After the college entrance exam results came out, I became the highly sought-after provincial top humanities student. But Zach arrogantly demanded that I reject the offer from the top university and apply to the same one as him. I agreed. To put him at ease, I even filled out my application in front of him. But then I secretly changed my choice and still went with the top-tier school. Imagine, the same newspaper that published the story about my miscarriage on the bus had, on its front page in a prominent position, the big, red announcement of my acceptance into a top university. What a surprise that must have been for Zach. This was the double kill I had prepared for him. It was enough to make him lose his mind, to go completely crazy, and do something for me. And before that happened, I would never let him see me. I turned off my phone so he couldn't contact me. Experiencing betrayal. Zach's anger reached its peak with each unanswered call. He couldn't take it anymore and went straight to my house. I blew out one last smoke ring, stubbed out the cigarette, and looked up at Owen and the female officer. So that day, the more I tried to protect my family, the more Zach wanted to kill them. That rat poison, I really didn't put it there. My fingerprints aren't even on the cup. Think about it, Zach killed 2 people. Even if he didn't get the death penalty, it would be a life sentence. I didn't need to go to that trouble. If it wasn't for my blind grandmother putting that rat poison in the tea, he really would have stabbed me to death, and you wouldn't have to be trying so hard to pin a crime on me. So, as I said from the beginning, in this whole massacre, my only mistake was coming home 5 minutes early, getting myself stabbed and nearly killed. That's all. I'm finished. Officers, on what charges do you plan to arrest me? Owen and the female officer were stunned by my story and were speechless for a long time. Seeing they had nothing to say, I stared at Owen and continued. Officer Wu, please, in the future, if you can't find evidence that I'm a murderer, don't disturb my life and studies. You don't need to keep making things difficult for someone who has fought with all their might just to grow up, right? At that moment, Owen's face was as pale as paper. Before leaving, he stood with his back to me for a full 5 minutes. When they said they were heading back to the station, he finally turned around, and with some reluctance said to me, I still believe my instincts. Luna. I smiled. But instincts can't be used as evidence in a case, can they, Officer Wu? He sighed. The law dictates that a suspect is innocent until proven guilty. Luna, if I really have wronged you, I apologize. In the twilight, he took 2 steps, then turned back and stood before me. Luna, let me leave you with 2 final sentences. A truly brave person is one who, after seeing the true nature of life, still holds on to love. Since you have already witnessed the color of darkness, I hope you can spend the rest of your life searching for the light. I held back the tears welling in my eyes and nodded. I will, Officer Wu. Thank you. 10 years later, I became a moderately famous mystery novelist. On a trip, I ran into the female officer who had worked on the case with Owen. She was traveling with her daughter for the summer vacation. Her daughter was the same age I had been then and unexpectedly was a fan of my work. During the journey, the girl asked to borrow a novel from me to pass the time. Ma'am, the content of your copy of Journey Under the Midnight Sun seems to be the devotion of Suspect X. Is the book jacket wrong? I smiled and said, it's a prop. I'm writing a novel right now and I need it to maintain my inspiration. She leaned in, curious. What kind of novel? Can you give me a little spoiler? I'm thinking of writing a fan fiction of Journey Under the Midnight Sun, but with the core of the devotion of Suspect X. Think about it. Yukiko commits a murder, and Ryoji frames himself as the killer, sacrificing himself to clear her name. Isn't that compelling? Beside her, the female officer suddenly looked at me, her face a mask of disbelief. She said excitedly, Luna, that was the real truth back then, wasn't it? I paused, then burst out laughing. Officer, what are you thinking? I was just talking about a plot for a novel. Her face, which had lit up, dimmed inch by inch. She nodded with some disappointment. That case, it's just really hard to forget. Captain Wu was depressed for a long time because of it. He felt like he lost to you. Do you all want me to be the murderer that badly? I looked at her with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. She shook her head and said with a self-deprecating laugh, "No, not really. We just want to find the truth. We don't want to let anyone who should be brought to justice get away." I gave a faint smile. I think the original intent of the people who created the law was to punish evil, promote good, and give people hope. The law shouldn't be a cold machine, it should be a vessel for morality. So sometimes, the truth isn't as important as you might think. Ma'am, so you're the valedictorian who went head-to-head with Captain Wu. You're so amazing. Did you know? To this day, you're a legend in our entire police department, inspiring and legendary. Especially the final massacre case, that verbal battle between you and Captain Wu. Your defense was just brilliant. The officer's daughter chattered on excitedly, as if she had discovered a new continent. She looked at her daughter with a mix of helplessness and affection, then said to me, "I'm sorry." After they got off at the next stop, I continued typing my novel on my laptop. Ryoji says to Yukiho, "I have to be the villain for everything to make sense. That can never change. Yukiho, you have to remember that." Jukyo hakusurayohi, crying, "No." Ryoji tries to soothe her, to calm her down. "You have to be calm. Yukiho, listen to me. We need to prepare 2 stories. In the first story, I am the bully, and your family are normal people who love you. Because that's the most logical story, and it will protect you the most. It will keep them from paying attention to your miscarriage, and ignore the fact that you were drugged and raped by your own family, thus hiding your motive for murder. Without a reason to kill, it's hard for the police to suspect you. So if you're lucky, the case will be closed with the first story. That's the ideal situation. But if you run into a persistent cop, you have to remember, no matter what story he tells, you need to act like he's hit the nail on the head, cry, break down, give him a sense of accomplishment, make him underestimate you. If he looks smug, you're halfway there. Because he'll think he's broken your psychological defenses. So whatever you say next, he'll believe at least some of it. For what he says, you need to do 3 things. Confirm a part, add to a part, and deny a part. Deny the unimportant parts, the illegal parts that are unfavorable to you. And the parts you add must be morally questionable, shocking, but also sympathetic enough. You need to weave in your experiences from the past 19 years, at least the last 3, and tell an unheard of, unconventional murder story, a third kind of murder that walks the line of the law. Only when you admit your immorality, your darkness and depravity, will your denial of the most fatal accusation not seem abrupt or unbelievable. Yukiho cries that she can't do it. Ryoji slaps her and yells, "Yukiho, find your courage. You are so smart, so hardworking. You've clawed your way up from the bottom covered in filth. No one can stand in your way. You can do it. Believe in yourself. Now say it with me. You did not kill anyone. You are not a criminal." Yukiho repeats through her tears, "I did not kill anyone. I am not a criminal." Louder. Ryoji says fiercely. Yukiho screams through her tears, "I did not kill anyone. I am not a criminal." Ryoji grips her shoulders. "Remember, when you lie, you must believe it yourself first. Only when you believe it can you possibly deceive others." Yukiho falls into Ryoji's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Ryoji strokes Yukiho's long hair with deep affection, then suddenly pushes her away and drains the tea from the coffee table in one gulp. Then he stabs Yukiho in the abdomen. "This spot won't be fatal. Don't pull the knife out. Wait for the police to come and let them pull it out for you. I hope this wound will help you stay in the first story. I'm leaving now, Yukiho. My Yukiho. I'm so glad I could help you." "What did you drink?" "Ryoji, what's wrong with you?" Yukiho struggles to embrace Ryoji, but is pushed away again. "My pituitary tumor has already spread. I'm not far from death. Yukiho, I don't want to go through chemo. I don't want to lose all my hair and wither into a living corpse with no dignity. This way of dying is not only painless but also meaningful. I'm very satisfied, very happy. I must die, Yukiho. If I don't die in this case, even though I'm terminally ill, with my father's personality, he would do everything in his power to get me off, and things would develop in an unpredictable direction. Then I wouldn't be able to protect my poor Yukiho, the person I love so deeply. Yukiho, live well. Ryoji collapses on the floor, his eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling as his gaze gradually fades. Yukiho kneels beside Ryoji, letting out a desperate wail. A large amount of blood flows from the wound in her abdomen, soaking her thin summer clothes, and pools on the floor. After typing these words, I closed my eyes wearily, and 2 cold tears slid down my cheeks. A passing flight attendant bent down and asked softly, "Ma'am, are you not feeling well? Do you need any help?" I shook my head. "It's nothing. I just suddenly feel a little sad."